I'll tell you why, because obviously Wonder Woman is a huge movie.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that people who don't normally go to see a film, this is more of an intimate, character-driven movie, almost an art house movie, and people who don't normally go to those types of films will go because Wonder Woman is like a huge worldwide hit.
Yep, totally.
Is this something you figured on? Because obviously you probably have spent years on this movie, or...
Yes. I've been working on this movie for about 8 years, kind of. I took like 4 years, nights and weekends to write it, in between TV jobs, and about 4 years to get it made. So it's funny to me because everybody's complimenting me on my exquisite timing to, have our film come out in the wake of Wonder Woman's global success. But I had no idea, kind of, even last year, if our little movie would even be, get distribution or see the light of day. So that's kind of, I do think there's kind of this Wonder Woman moment happening now, and that happened, but I didn't plan it this way. So,
what was the funding for the film predicate on the number of comic book movies that all of a sudden were being made since like the 2008 or so?
No, they just, Sony Stage 6 just really loved the script, and so they finally stepped up to give us the financing last August.
So, when did you first become acquainted with this story?
I was just a big Wonder Woman nerd and fan of Wonder Woman since I was a kid, really. And I finished directing my first feature, and one of the actresses in the film knew I was a big Wonder Woman fan, so she gave me a book on Wonder Woman's history. And there was a chapter in that book on the Marstons, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I read the story, and about they did the lie detector test, and had this relationship, and about disc theory, and how he put it into the Wonder Woman themes, and there was a controversy when Wonder Woman came out, and I was just blown away by the story, and I couldn't believe that everybody didn't know it. I mean, that it had been
I didn't
hidden
know
for so many years. Yeah.
Well, you said when you were doing your first movie, was that Debs or the Herbie?
Debs,
movie?
yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me who it was that turned you on to that? Or
Jordana Brewster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Wonder Woman, just like Superman, didn't originally appear as a standalone comic called Wonder Woman. It was like part of an anthology, or how did that work? Because Superman was Action Comics, or...
Yes. How did...
So were the original Wonder Woman comics called Wonder Woman, or were they under another moniker?
It's very... I think it was Sensation Comics at the time. But it's very confusing, so I don't want to say specifically, because it was the kind of early comic book business was really fly-by-night. So there was a bunch, they kept changing what it was. It was like Action Comics and this, and National Allied Publications and Sensation Comics. So companies kept buying each other and going. So, but yes, she got her own title in 1941.
I understand. I mean, this isn't in the movie, but I understand during World War II there were huge paper drives for like recycling. So a lot of the golden age of comics are forever lost because people were throwing them away. In fact, I thought that was going to happen in the movie, but they were taking the carts, the wagons of comics to burn them.
Yeah,
just like Nazis or something.
Yeah, no, that's a little known chapter in our history. But there was the comic book phenomenon was the biggest publishing phenomenon since the Bible. Like, it was, I relate it to what apps are now. Like, one day there was no apps, and then the next day there were tons of apps. And all the kids were on the apps, and all the parents were like, what the hell's an app? And it was totally unregulated, and they just exploded on the scene and were this huge fad. But then there was this huge backlash to them, and all of these different groups and decency commissions. But they had comic book burnings, and they would have like kids. Some churches would organize kids to go door to door. Literally, it was like a Red Wagon campaign where they would like have kind of pressure to give us all your books, and they'd go, and there's all these comic book burnings.
See, I would have done that and put them in a time capsule for my
distant
relatives.
Exactly,
like,
sell
this on eBay for $100,000.
Exactly.
Okay, so Elizabeth, was she educated at Harvard, or did they not allow women at Harvard, or you couldn't teach at Harvard if you were a woman?
She went to undergrad at Mount Holyoke, and then she went to do her graduate work at Boston College and at Radcliffe. So at Harvard, women weren't allowed to be educated at Harvard. They had to be at Radcliffe, which was the sister school. Mm-hmm. I mean, on the same campus, but within it, But her complaint in the film is that they have the same professors and learn the same thing, but they couldn't get the same degree.
And then Olive Byrne, who was her aunt? Her aunt was the founder?
Margaret Sanger.
Who created the American suffragette movement. No,
she went on. She was part of that movement, but she went on to. She was a big birth control advocate, and she would go on to found what is now called Planned Parenthood.
Okay. And then the actual lie detector, were you able to find, where do you find an actual original lie detector? Is there a museum somewhere, or?
No, we actually failed miserably on set. First we were looking for lie detectors and we couldn't find an early one, and then we tried to make, we did all this research on them, and so we tried to, the prop department tried to construct one, but it didn't work when we went to shoot it. So a friend of mine, thank God, is Dave Texan, I'm giving him a shout out, a visual effects supervisor. So it's CG, the lie detector in the film.
So there's no working or like museum models of
not that we could get our hands on. They may exist.
At what point did did Professor Marston get kicked out of Harvard?
He got kind of turfed out of a bunch of universities. I kind of collapsed it for the purposes of the storytelling. But he taught at Radcliffe and Tufts and Columbia, and I think he taught at several schools, and eventually could no longer get a job as an academic.
I really like the costuming too, because Bella Heathcote has those bracelets, and yes. I recognize that.
Yes, yeah. Yes, the Donna Maloney, who's a genius, is our costume designer, and Olive Byrne was known for wearing these, silver bracelets on her wrist. So that was one of the first things that kind of caught my attention in the initial. It's almost like Easter eggs in their life that appeared, in the Wonder Woman comics. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's wearing the silver bracelets, and the lie detector is like the lasso of truth in Wonder Woman that makes you know.
See, that's something I never got until I saw your movie.
Yeah, so she puts the lasso of truth, and it makes you tell the truth, and actually originally in Marston's version of the Wonder Woman, it made you obey. So when she put the lasso, then it was kind of later changed into made you tell the truth.
So he fathered children with both of them, and they were all living together in this kind of open relationship, which would be more permissible nowadays, but some people would still shun it nowadays. But it must have been a real shocker back in the 20s and 30s.
Totally. Yes.
So in doing research, what did you find specifically? Just
that it's interesting. They to their friends and kind of close associates, I think it was an open secret that they were all, living together, and but that they kind of constructed a secret life. They had many lies that they would tell, and kind of identities, and sometimes Olive would be the sister-in-law, or sometimes, I think at one point she was maybe the housekeeper. Like they kind of come up with different explanations, and also they moved around a lot. So the film doesn't necessarily explore like how they have a very sprawling story, but they did feel, to the outside world, it was very secret. They couldn't tell anybody.
When did Professor Marston die? In the late 40s?
1947.
And I guess it seems to me that the sex shop sequences.
Yes, yeah.
At first I was thinking, why is his wife so shocked?
Yeah.
But because, it's just like, but then it's like I realized they were kind of paving the way for like the Betty Page era. Where photos of women in bondage are more acceptable, or nowadays they're tame compared to what people are exposed to. Did you was there ever a tendency for you to want to go further into the eroticism, the bondage sequences, the lovemaking sequences between the three of them?
Not really. My goal was always to tell a very kind of simple and organic love story.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to shy away from the sexuality of the story, but to me, the dialectic in the movie was between fantasy and reality. So I really wanted, when they are, that the sequences to me were about the freedom they find in the fantasy, and that they're able to. So I was really clear that I didn't want, I feel like that kind of subject matter is a lot of times treated as, oh, that's so weird, or it's so perverse, or kinky. Like, I wanted it to just be fantastical and wonderful, and to be another step in their love and kind of communication with each other. And I was really interested in disc theory, and so all of the scenes revolve around dominance, inducement, submission, or compliance, and so especially those scenes. But I didn't feel like, I felt really good about the depictions of the sexuality. I didn't want to go further. Oh yeah.
When you're doing a sequence like the one in the hazing sequence, where we're watching her spank the other girl, and then you have characters that are supposed to be hidden, and then people. A lot of times in films, I feel like they always like, oh man, everybody can see you. It's just like, look, I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible. I went back and watched the first season. And they have scenes where people are looking in, like I'm spying on you, but like I'm in the window. It's just dude, I can see you. What, as a director, how do you choose the angles that you're going to use in a scene like that?
We found this wonderful. Oh, I think he's doing.
We can wrap it up.
We found this great location. So it was really about. And there's always kind of a suspension of disbelief in things like that, because you're kind of telling that story, but a lot of it's finding a location where that